Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we got a special one for you. We're going to look at a Husqvarna 235 chainsaw. We're going to go through all the steps you need to do to take this down and access the carburetor. We're going to take the carburetor apart, rebuild it. But we're also going to take a look at a mistake that I made. But you're going to have the opportunity to figure out what that mistake was. So follow along here in the disassembly and carb rebuild and reassembly of this saw and see if you can figure out where I went wrong. Now, obviously the more you know about this equipment, the easier you think it may be. But the reality is, if you know nothing about chainsaw repair and you're just really observant, you should be able to figure out where I screwed up. So with that said, where are we at on this dismantling? We got the handle off. There was only 3 screws holding it on. Then we disconnected the throttle linkage. Now there's that one long bolt with a T20 head on it and 2 8mm nuts that hold the airbox on and ultimately the carburetor on there. We're going to pop the fuel line off the purge bulb, slide everything off the 2 studs, and remove the main fuel line from the tank. I mean, whenever you tip a chainsaw over and the fuel filter falls out, you can be pretty much guaranteed that there's going to be crap inside the carburetor. So I'm going to cut the fuel line off here, and I always like to cut it below or above the point where I grabbed it with the pliers when I was yanking on it, in case I pinched a hole in it or something like that. So we'll get that fuel filter laying nice in the bottom of the tank. And then you see I scribed a line there on the side of the carburetor. You know, that's something I did decades ago on the very first carb like this that I pulled apart. I didn't know how it was supposed to go back together, so I scribed a line before I took it apart. And it's just a habit I've kept all along. But check out this metering diaphragm here. This is probably the stiffest. Wow. Yeah, so it's old and stiff, and we're going to throw it out. Okay, so we're taking apart the rest of the carburetor, and there's the micro screen I was referring to. Looks like there was just one little piece of debris in there, but a lot of times if your fuel line disintegrates, a lot of chunks of that fuel line end up in that screen. So that's why anytime that I have a problem with a bad fuel line, I pull the carb apart and take a look. And it really doesn't take that much to open up a carb and take a look at it and replace the gaskets and diaphragm. There's some pump. Serious crud down in there. There's a lot of gunk in this one under the needle. So this is going to go inside the ultrasonic cleaner, and we'll get that cleaned up real decent. Now here you can see that I'm turning in the high and low speed jets and counting the amount of turns, and then removing them. And what I'll do here is I'll write down on a piece of paper how many turns it was. And not necessarily because I'm too stupid to remember 10 minutes down the road where it was set, but it might be 2 hours down the road. I mean, the phone rings, maybe I got to run up front and sell a chainsaw to a guy, you know, maybe I get distracted some other way. That's why I also do a little habit like this here. You'll see that I laid the low speed jet lower on the table than the high speed jet. I just set them down that way, and then I know it's another thing to help save some time. I don't have to think about the long one or the short one where it goes. I just grab the one on top, it's higher, it goes in the high speed. So here you see our ultrasonic cleaner. I put my carb in a jar with some clean fuel mix. And whatever that other crap that was in that ultrasonic cleaner, I mean, that's them 4-stroke guys on the other side of the shop. I got no idea what the hell they got in there that turned it white, but I don't want any part of it. So I put my stuff in a jar, and then I get plenty of action inside that jar from the ultrasonic cleaner. I've never had a problem because of it. So now I've returned the high and low speed jet to the carb, and I've backed them out the amount of turns I had jotted down on that piece of paper. So I got that set. It's hot in here, man. It's like 90 degrees outside, and it's all of that in here. Okay, now we're going to put the needle valve back in the carburetor. And we'll tighten that screw down. And then check the metering lever height. It's flush with the top of the carburetor. Check out this finger action here. I have no idea. I don't know where my head was on this repair. I mean, I made a mistake in here, I'm telling you that. And clearly my head was somewhere else, and that's why I made this mistake. And I can tell by watching myself in this video, there's at least one other spot where, well, here's one spot. Looks like I'm kind of stalling and think about it. I've done this 100 times. There should be no thinking about it. But I am matching up some marks in the old gasket to the new gasket so I orient it correctly. And then there's some other clues like these 3 little holes right there that only occur on one corner of this gasket. So it's easy to orient that correctly. Here's my little scratch mark, and I will line that up with the little scratch mark on this piece so I know which way that goes. And we'll just start reassembling the carb. So a little later in the video, I'll pause and you'll have an opportunity to go back and see if you can spot where I screwed up. I'll have a little countdown timer going, and you'll be able to, as soon as that timer is done and the video restarts, you're going to get your answer as to what went wrong. So there I'm showing the scribe mark. I got everything lined up correctly. We got an old fuel line on here that we're going to replace yet. So we'll just cut that to length and push it on there where it belongs. Put our gasket back on. That choke lever has to go on there before you slide the carb over the studs, or you're not going to get the choke lever on. It's just the way it is. And we'll kind of line up how long that fuel inlet line needs to be and get that pushed on. And then the fuel line to the purge bulb, we'll add that. The return line to the tank seems decent enough. I'm going to leave it alone. This is our throttle linkage rod. We're going to have to pull the carb out a little bit to get that in place. And then slide our air box back on. That choke lever sits right underneath the stop switch. And we'll tighten down our bolt and 2 nuts. Everything looks good. The throttle linkage looks good. It's moving in and out. So we'll put the new air filter on next. Did I screw up yet? Maybe I haven't screwed up yet. Have you spotted it? Maybe it hasn't happened yet. We'll get this little cover on over the end of the throttle linkage. There's one screw on the side holding it on. Depending on which model and what year you have, that could either be a Phillips head or it could be a T15 Torx. Now here's a pro tip for you. This handle is always loose, so just plan on tightening it up. So the first thing you want to do is get your throttle linkage hooked into your throttle lever. Then roll her over. Put the short screw in by the handle. And the long screw goes in the other hole. And I don't think the video shows it, but the other long screw would go in the anti-vibe spring that goes from the piston cylinder to the handle there. So I'm kind of looking things over here a little bit, but it really seems like I'm taking my time here, like something's bothering me. I think I might have screwed up already, but I'm not sure. Part of my tune-up also always includes looking at this spark arrestor screen, and you can see that a good portion of it is plugged up. So we're gonna burn that off. Blow it out with some compressed air. Right. And try not to hurt ourselves while doing it. And then tighten down the nut on the muffler. Now, somewhere I screwed up. You got a chance now to go back and look at the video and see where that might be. I'm going to have a little countdown timer here, and as soon as we come back from, or as soon as the timer gets down to 1, we're going to start the video again, and right away you'll get the reveal on what the problem was. And you'll see that I was pretty upset about it because everything has to come back apart again. So with that said, let's get back to the video. So there you go. I forgot that stupid little screw.
That was bullshit.
Yes, it was. That screw must be in there for a reason, so I took it back apart and put it in there. Did you figure it out? Did you spot what I did wrong? Let me know what you think about this kind of video down in the comments. Thanks for watching. Later.